You're listening to the DCAU Review, hosted by Cal and Liam. Streaming on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and at DCAUreview.com. Now, here's today's episode.
Hey everybody, welcome to the DCAU Review bonus episode number 7. I am your host Cal. With me is our other host, the gentleman that runs our Twitter page, and guy with a lot of insight. Liam, welcome to bonus episode number 7. We are continuing our review of the latest installment of Batman: The Adventures Continue. Excited to talk about the last 2 installments with you today.
Yeah, we got another couple chapters to talk about. Obviously, been enjoying getting to return to this world with new adventures, and then on top of that, we've also started to see some new photos of the toy line as well. So it's a big, exciting time for this line, for this brand of Batman: The Adventures Continue, and I'm excited to talk about all of it.
Yeah, man. As you mentioned, the first 3 figures from the Batman: The Adventures Continue line have started shipping out from retailers. There was a slight delay due to all the COVID madness, but it looks like these will be getting it into people's hands sooner rather than later. We've already seen some great pictures online. We've posted them on our Instagram page at DCAU Review. Some great photos by a guy named Rob D Toys, who has already received his. Mine are actually shipping from Big Bad Toy Store as we speak, so I should have them early next week to give my own personal review. But yeah, I'm excited. Some great photos of those figures. Really up the ante and the excitement of turning this 2D comic that we've had into 3D in hand. But I mean, ironically, of course, being that if it wasn't for these figures, the 2D versions wouldn't have a reason to exist. So, which came first, the chicken or the egg,
Yeah, absolutely. It's really exciting. I've been a little more selective with my action figure collecting over the years here. I've kind of started to dip my toes back in. And I was kind of on the fence about some of these Adventures Continue line, because I've only, again, picked up certain ones of these DCAU figures, the new Batman Adventures and Batman the Animated Series figures that they've put out through the DC Direct / DC Collectibles line so far. But I don't know, seeing those sort of out of package official shots of especially I think the Red Hood figure really I think put them over the top for me. And I'm getting a little bit of FOMO on them now. I think I need to I'm gonna put a little money aside and pick some of these bad boys up soon for myself as well, because they're looking good, and obviously it's also cool to have the quote unquote in canon reason for some of these guys existing, like the Jason, like I said, the Jason Todd Red Hood figure especially.
And then, of course, the Jason Todd looks really, really good. I think those original promo shots didn't necessarily do it justice. The in-hand shots certainly look really, really great. I should mention, of course, I think we mentioned these maybe on the first episode, but of course, these figures were designed by Ty Templeton himself. That's and then each character is supposed to come with. I didn't see it on the back of the packaging, so I don't know if there's an insert or what have you, but there was originally supposed to be a description or a bio written by Paul Dini for each figure as well. So I don't know if they did away with that since they went ahead and moved forward with the comic book itself, or what specifically is going on with that. I haven't heard or seen any mention of the bios from Mr. Dini, but they were sculpted by Harding Studios, and then the paint job was done by he goes by the handle Crackers O'Toole, I believe, on Instagram, but that's Michael Cowart. So great job all the way around there. It really, these things look really, really impressive, and one we'll have the ability to talk about next week or on the next bonus episode is going to be Azrael, who we learned will be debuting in the next issues. But before we get to that, I guess we should probably wrap up talking about these two chapters. So we are covering chapters, and again, we talked about how confusing this gets. This is part 3 and part 4 of Mentors, which is chapters 5 and chapter 6 digitally released of this comic, which I assume this is going to be issue number 3. I don't know. Okay, all right. So issue 3, chapters 5 and 6, parts 3 and 4 of Mentors. So we the other thing I guess we should mention, Liam, is that with the economy and various places opening back up recently, we have finally gotten our hands on the physical issues of the very first issue of The Adventures Continue, and I am very, very impressed. I mean, these things, it looks great digitally, but there's nothing quite like holding a physical comic book in your hand, for me at least.
Oh yeah, there's really no substitute for that, and it was a really great joy. My local comic store actually, there was apparently a high enough demand for this, especially among people like me who have subscription boxes with the store, that they weren't able to fulfill all of the orders on day one when the book came out. So I was only able to pick up the blank variant the first time, but thankfully they were able to secure me a couple of copies of the A and B covers as well. And yeah, it's just great to hold that in your hand and be able to look through the issue and also see the story, kind of how it's meant to be seen. Obviously, each chapter digitally is, it's like half of one full comic. So
Right.
being able to kind of read the story all the way through the way it was more meant to be seen, I think is really cool as well. So yeah, definitely great to get that physical copy in my hands. And as we talked about a little bit on the last episode, but obviously with stores and everything starting to open back up, certainly if you have the ability, financially speaking, and if there's a comic store in your area, definitely would advocate for going out and showing their support. Most of them are small businesses, independently owned, and like a lot of businesses of that size, I'm sure they're hurting after having to shut down almost completely for a few months there. So get up there and support your local comic store if you're able to.
Absolutely. Can't speak enough also. I mean, we talked about it on the last episodes, but the artwork is just so gorgeous. It's so great to see, Ty Templeton and Monica Kubina's work physically in hand. The colors are certainly bright and vibrant on your digital device, but even in hand, they're so impressive. It's just a beauty to look at. Even if we didn't necessarily love that first story, it's just gorgeous to look at. So, all right,
absolutely.
Let's jump in. We've been talking a little bit here. Let's talk about our review of Mentors Part 3 and 4. Liam, when we last left our heroes, if I recall, that was sort of leading up to this dastardly plan. We learned that Deathstroke was in town and that there was a Firefly appearance, and we weren't quite sure what was happening. We kind of left with a cliffhanger of Firefly, and he was attacking Deathstroke as he was sort of teaming up and sort of trying to sort of, lack of a better word, steal Robin away and sort of coax Batman's allies, as it were, his Batgirl and Robin, away from him. So we left Tim Drake and Slade as partners teaming up against Firefly, and so we kind of pick right back where that left us off in part 3.
Yeah, it picks up right in the midst of that battle. Batman sort of, as we mentioned in the previous part, was sort of trying to track down this mysterious figure who's watching him, but he gets called away when Alfred is not able to reach Robin, and he has to go investigate and sort of helps Deathstroke and Robin take down Firefly. But as fate would have it, once the literal and figurative smoke has cleared, it turns out that it was not, in fact, Garfield Lynn's Firefly in that suit. And, in fact, it was Deathstroke's assistant, Sonny, pretending to be Firefly. And this is all we finally kind of get the reveal at the end of part 3, chapter 5, as to exactly what is going on, as we find out that after the events of issue number 1, the first 2 chapters of this story, Lex Luthor, in fact, is still kind of being an ominous sort of puppet master villain in the background of this story, as he, in fact, has hired Deathstroke to take out Batman. And that sort of sets the groundwork for part 4, chapter 6, as we kind of get our grand finale, as the plan kind of comes together. Batman, after sort of being furious with Robin for going out on his own and trying to take down Firefly with Deathstroke, is sort of he grounds Tim and gives Batgirl the night off as well. So Batman's sort of isolated and sort of is led into this trap by Slade with the fake Firefly, and of course it unravels in the end, and Slade's plan is revealed, and they're able to stop him. But I really like the way this part was laid out. As you mentioned, we weren't necessarily huge fans of the plotting in the first couple parts, but I think this Mentor's storyline feels way more, and especially these 2 parts that we're talking about today, this feels a lot more in line with, like, it could have been an episode of the series, like it really feels like it fits Absolutely. A little better. Just the intricacy of the mystery. They give you a little bit of clues and hints right away that something's kind of off with this Firefly resurgence, but they don't come out and spell it out. And then sort of the as you mentioned, the sort of underplot of Deathstroke trying to steal Robin and Batgirl away from Batman. It really adds an extra layer to it, and I think Alan Burnett and Paul Dini did quite a good job as well with the plot of this one, especially.
Yeah, I agree. I think I definitely enjoyed these 2 parts. I felt like they built up to the crescendo to the final battle between Batman and Deathstroke. I felt like there could have been a little bit more fisticuffs between the 2 of them. It would have been interesting, and he was sort of haphazardly defeated with being hit over the head with a fire extinguisher. But one of the interesting things I liked about this too is just the continuing thread of the Jason Todd mystery. They obviously, that's been the biggest question from a lot of DCAU fans, including us, is how does Jason Todd fit into this continuity, knowing that really there have only been 2 Robins that we know of, that there's really not a lot of space in between Dick Grayson and Tim Drake for a Jason Todd to fit into this DCAU. So how does he fit into this? So rather than coming out and sort of guns blazing, no pun intended, like, and just kind of ditching that, or giving you all the details on that right off the bat, they've strung you along a little bit, which is good, and feels like, okay, there's a continuing thread through all of this that eventually is going to be revealed. We're going to get some sort of big reveal at the end, which is going to be hopefully well worth the payoff. But that plays a big part in this issue. Also, actually, in chapter 6, part 4 of Mentors, he tips Barbara off at her job at the, I think it's at Gotham University Library. He slips in a note saying that it's a trap. Yeah. That was the square that you posted this week on our Instagram.
Yeah, I tried to come up with a silly joke caption for every issue, and I picked that one. But I love that whole sequence because obviously, as you mentioned, there's this underlying mystery with Jason, but just the way that sequence is laid out from a plotting standpoint, but also, again, just to sing the praises of Ty Templeton and Monica Kubina a little bit of that whole sequence where it's a few separate little panels where you see Barbara putting books on shelves. She looks at the book, she sees the note, she reads the note, she turns away, she turns back to try to see, and then we see a shot of Jason walking out of the building. And it's just this really cool sequence, and the way it was visualized of her seeing the note, realizing it, all the while she's talking to Tim on over the comm link or whatever. It's just I love the way that sequence was laid out. It was really, really well done from an artistic standpoint, especially.
Yeah, there's one of the other panels also, the panel that sort of ended part 3, chapter 5 was, it's this big reveal of Lex Luthor again being the one pulling the strings and the one that's has commissioned Deathstroke to take out Batman. But there's a shot that Jason has been eavesdropping this time, and there's a great, very expressive shot as Lex sort of narrates, or that Deathstroke rather declares that within the next 24 hours they'll be toasting to the memory of Batman, and there's this shocked face that's just classic Ty Templeton drawing, really, really great. But yeah, that whole subplot and storyline, weaving that in with the main plot is adds to that mystery and builds that tension as to just what exactly is ultimately going to be the reveal here. So overall, again, I think my one complaint for this would be that the battle between Deathstroke, who's supposed to be this almost equal to Batman, seemed pretty short. And obviously they had the sort of side plot that, as you mentioned, that this wasn't really Firefly. It was an impersonator, and Batman's kind of dealing with that. And then there's the Hephaestus sword that's very much like an overpowered weapon that seems like Batman would be no match for. But Deathstroke is sort of bested by the people he tried to sway away from Batman. So poetic justice in that way, I guess.
Absolutely. And we can get into a few minor other notes on plot. This is we can call this the nitpicking corner. But this is something I legitimately don't know the answer to, because we haven't, in our regular show, we haven't gotten to those episodes of Batman Beyond yet. But Cobra is mentioned several times. And at first you think maybe it's part of this fake backstory that Death has cooked up for Firefly. But even in part 2, once the ruse is kind of revealed, Deathstroke mentions that no, Firefly really was like horribly burned, and he is holed up with the Cobra organization right now. Did Cobra exist before Batman Beyond? Does that work for the timeline?
I feel like, so I know, and this is a plug for our friends over at Watchtower Database. They did a video this past week talking about the same thing, and I believe their speculation is that, I mean, Batman Beyond is definitely the first appearance of it, and I don't remember that. I don't think that there was a specific mention of how old the organization was necessarily. Just that it's a terrorist group that has, that Batman, I believe Bruce knew about it, or when it makes its appearance, that it's not it's not like their first appearance. So I think that the door is open there for it possibly to exist, but I think it's very ambiguous. Yeah, I think it's ambiguous. So.
I'll take that. We can work with ambiguous, and the other note probably being, as again a second shout out for the Watchtower Database guys, is in chapter 5, Deathstroke specifically mentions 9/11.
Yes.
And then later mentions that Tim, and then later in chapter 6, it is mentioned that Tim has been Robin for less than a year at this point.
Yes.
So if you are someone like our friends Maddie and James, who are hard fast believers, and Ted, I don't want to leave out Ted, of the the stricter timeline that is nailed down to specific years from 92 to 2020 or whatever. That's certainly a pretty big problem for making this book fit. If he's only been Robin for a year or even less than a year at this point, and it's also after 9/11, that muddies the waters a little bit.
Yeah, I read that line and I was like, did he just say like less than a year? Oh boy, like this is And I think I'm fairly certain, actually, I know for certain the Watchtower Database guys just released their latest video on the latest chapter. So give them a watch. They're always entertaining. They're good guys. James has been on our podcast already, and we look forward to having Maddie and Ted on at some point as well. But yeah, it's going to be interesting trying to tightrope walk it into maybe at some point something will happen where we just realize that this is sort of pseudo continuity, much like Batman Adventures or Batman Gotham Adventures or Superman Adventures or any of the other spin-off comics that are based on but don't necessarily fit into straight up continuity all the time.
Yeah, maybe this story was in the Justice Lords universe. We don't know.
Or Brave New Metropolis, or
one of those alternate universes that's pretty much exactly like ours, except for Superman being a fascist. There's three of those.
There we go. Although in this one we've already seen Superman and he's not a fascist, so
not yet. But he doesn't become a fascist until Luthor becomes president. So
good point.
So
not alternate universe time loop. It's a time
loop. Exactly.
Right. To borrow art. Yeah.
So those were kind of our, like I said, my minor nitpicky things as far as timeline and stuff like that goes. But yeah, I think overall it's a really fun chapter. Like I said, I think this whole Deathstroke story really fits well into the world overall, and with the mystery not only around who hired him, but with the Firefly stuff and kind of adding some new wrinkles to that character who is kind of a one and done villain. I mean, I think he obviously appears more than once in the series and pops up again in Justice League. But as far as his motivations or like interesting character stuff, we didn't get anything of that. So kind of the fake out there with his new suit, I thought was cool. And yeah, as you said, maybe the ending, you wish you could have had a few more pages of just epic Batman versus Deathstroke fighting before Robin and Batgirl show up, but that's that's hardly a complaint to be like, I wish there was more of this,
Right. If anything, I think the desire certainly is leave, the old cliche is leave them wanting more. So job well done in this case is, wanting more from that. It is a compliment for sure.
Absolutely. And then, and ending it with sort of, the whole Bat family now sort of being aware of this strange person who clearly knows their secrets out there in the world, wondering why he's out there, and more importantly, maybe why he chose to warn them.
I was going to ask you, do you think, based on I still feel like that the dialogue is kind of ambiguous. At one point, I think that, there's a comment that they don't know who it is, but at the end of this comic, it almost seems like the three of them realize they know who it is, but it could have just been me reading into the sort of ambiguous dialogue. Do you feel like they know they know who it is, or they just know that someone's watching them?
I think I would say, my personal feeling was that it was more just they're putting two and two together. That, it has to be a short list, right, of folks who know their secrets and know all of their villains and have the resources to kind of pull off these strange the surveillance the way he has. So that's kind of how I took it. I would like to, and maybe we'll get this in future issues. We'll have to wait and see. But he's been on the cover, or at least the variant cover of a few issues. I'd like to see. And maybe once we get Jason more directly involved with our heroes, I'd like to see a little bit of Nightwing in this book going forward. I think that would be, especially if they are introducing this Jason type character, I'd like to see something with all three Robins together. I think that would be really cool. That's more, just fantasy wish list stuff for me, but that's something I think would be cool to see moving forward. Would be to see Dick Grayson brought into the fold, especially now that it's clear that this new strange foe knows all of their secrets.
For sure, yeah. I don't think that he was, and this doesn't mean anything because there's been plenty of characters that were not in the figure line that have been featured in the comic book, but I don't think Nightwing is slated on the re-release for figures that I've seen. I know they're re-releasing Batgirl with the cell shading. I know they're re-releasing the Tim Drake Robin with cell shading, and of course the new Batman Adventures version. They also of course re-released the original Batman the Animated Series version too. So that doesn't mean anything. But yeah, I feel like maybe, just maybe, and that will lead us to next week's issue, or the upcoming issue, 2 weeks from now's issue. That will be Azrael, and of course both of us know that Nightwing plays a large role, at least in the original Nightfall comic series. So if anything, this would be the perfect time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, it's just fun to. I think we've talked about that maybe on some of our previous episodes. I love the novelty of seeing more of the Bat family in action, this DCAU Bat family together, because there's only a handful of episodes where there's all three or certainly all four of them are active in the same episode or even appear together, much less sort of being all in action together. So yeah, that's certainly something I'd like to see. I guess as far as a re-release of that Nightwing, he didn't really have any highlight colors on his suit, so doing like a cel-shaded version of him is probably tougher than it is for some of the other re-releases.
They did the same thing with the new Batman Adventures Batman, though. It didn't make any sense to me. They did cell-shaded Batman for that, too, so I don't know. They could do it.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely could, and I hope they do. But if nothing else, then maybe it means if there's another series of these figures, then it means hopefully there'll be more comics as well. But yeah, that's certainly on my wish list. I'd love to see again more of the whole Bat family. But yeah, I'd like, especially once we get a little bit more into this Jason character and what his motives are. I think it would be cool to see all of the Robins together in the DCAU. Obviously, we've never gotten to see this because there's never been a Jason in this universe before. So that's definitely on my wish list.
There we go. All right. And just as a reminder, so we still have several figures that are appearing in the figure releases that we have not seen in the actual comic book yet. That would be Thomas Wayne Batman. We have not seen the Vampire Batman. We have not seen the Batman Who Laughs. We've not seen Talon. And we've not seen Hush yet either. So a bunch of characters still that we're waiting for to debut. We know that Azrael is coming next week, but beyond that, it'd be interesting to see how they jam all these characters in these last couple of issues here, because we only have 3 issues left, right?
Right. As of now, it's still slated to be this miniseries here, and yeah, fingers crossed. The book sells well, and we get 6 seasons and a movie worth of new content from this series and from this universe. But yeah, as of now, that's quite a few figures. We talked about it, I think, in our first bonus episode that featured this topic about how when the Dark Knight Returns suit showed up, we thought, okay, we're going to start seeing a lot of the toy line kind of shoehorned in here, especially the newer figures. And that, I mean, for the most part, other than obviously Jason and Deathstroke, we haven't seen a ton of it, and obviously the Bat family who are being re-released. So yeah, that's quite a bit.
Yeah, I think that actually has benefited the series, because I think that was one of our main complaints for the first issue, was that it felt very much like we have to sell toys, so we need to get this giant bat suit in here, sort of without any sort of explanation or understanding for why it exists or where it came from. But yeah, so good on them for kind of fitting in. Deathstroke obviously is certainly toyetic enough to jump off the pages of a comic book, and but didn't feel like he was being shoehorned in, which is definitely credit to Alan Burnett and Paul Dini and how they wrote the character into the series.
Yeah, and and once again, I know we talked about this in our last bonus episode, but yeah, Deathstroke he fits so well into this DCAU style, as does this Red Hood design so far. And like I said, I'm looking forward to see how they introduce Azrael into the book as well. But It's a really great issue, and I guess we can give our final scores here. Unlike our main show, we just do a 1 to 10 rating rather than a blank out of 40, since we don't really separate the categories like we do on our main show. But yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed especially these last two chapters, and I thought it very much felt like an episode of the show. So I'm going pretty high this week. I'm going 8 out of 10 for my score.
Nice. I had the exact same score written down, actually, believe it or not. 8 out of 10 would definitely go well. I think we sing the praises every single week, but it's not enough. Ty Templeton and Monica Kubina's work on this is just absolutely fantastic. It really brings you back into that universe in such a great way. Even if the story at times has felt sort of out of place, the artwork reminds you constantly of being back in the DCAU, which is obviously why we're reading this. So, but this week I felt like, as we both have already stated, that the story sort of caught up to the artwork a little bit and was definitely a lot stronger in these two issues.
Agreed.
All right, Liam. Well, that will wrap us up for this week. Thank you guys for tuning into this bonus episode. You can check out our other bonus episodes, including the other reviews of the previous chapters and parts, all available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to podcasts. You could probably find us there. So go back and check those out if you haven't already. Again, make sure you check out the issues themselves. Pick up a physical copy if you're able to, or if not, you can definitely get digital versions wherever you read your digital comics. Well worth it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at DCAU Review. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at DCAU Review. We have an exciting episode coming up later this week, which will be our final episode of the month of June. We're covering a Toyman episode and Superman the Animated Series, and then we'll be discussing what we'll be covering for the month of July. Anything else, Liam?
No, definitely stay tuned. And as more and more images, and as you mentioned, as people start getting these toys in hand, and as well as the physical copies of the comics, be sure to tweet us and talk to us on Instagram about them, because that's certainly the most fun part of the show for us. Besides hanging out with each other and doing the show, is definitely getting to interact with all of you and hear your own. I think everybody in this sort of fan community definitely sort of feeds off each other's excitement, especially when there's something new like this to talk about. So definitely look forward to hearing from you at DCAU Review on Twitter and Instagram.
All right. Well, until next time, I'm Cal.
And I'm Liam.
And we'll talk to you on the next episode of the DCAU Review.
Bye-bye.